Alright, we're gonna continue where we left off. Looking at all the pictures, talking about it. Might have some reading in this one, but let's continue. We got Haiti. We got, you know, when we say the Haiti, we talking about an empire that's rich. You can go to PNF channel and get a lot of history about this, but the Midwest, the so-called Creoles and French and so empires of America. As we can see on his chest, he got the eagle. Running the Western Empire. And like we see in the last video, we got in the islands of the West Pacific, we see these plume feathers in their crown. You'll see that a lot. We see Matoka Rebecca, we call Pocahontas. Should have been clear, we could have read that. But as you can see, in European, she got the 3 plume on her penna. Stilus. Which was used as American lords used to use in their headdress. Got a Dutch mistress, the Duchess of Dutch Empire. But again, a lot of this could be empires within the American continent, because we got all these people at play. These the characters. For all the videos we've been doing, and name a lot of characters, different nationalities, nations, and stuff like that. So you get to see the characters in this play. But all these videos stem from chapter 48 of Circle 7. And basically the entire story of Circle 7 being the history of the Moorish Americans and the Moorish Empire, mostly of the West. You got people like Ham who show up in history. I'm trying to see what's the name is, which De Franciscus. Primarius in Acade, Lugdun, probably London, Upwood with Batos, De Franciscus, Juvenius Julius, Doctor and Professor. We got the King of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland. And you see them got the Golden Globe Award with the cross on top saying there's a Christian world or kingdom. So they find the origin of gold. We're going to see that in our story, in our timeline, when England find the origin of gold, which is America, before 1492. We're going to see claims of England claiming that later, after 1492, that hey, we've been part of the crusade against the Western Moorish Empire. So what's all I do? Got the king, got Carlos II, Charles II, being the king of Hibernia, Jacobus, the king of Jacob, and the Great Britain, France, and Hibernia. Tres illustri, tres nobile, et tres pusunt prince. Acquies of the grace of God, the Grand King of Britain, France, Ireland, Henrique, 1608. 1600, Albert, the Archduke of Austria, Burgundy, and it looked like Barbary. And I don't know, calm, Finland, calm. You see at the bottom. Andromeda. His victory over Persia. All these Holy Roman Empire shit. We got Charles of Goutenhout, the Baron of the Marshal, the Baron Marshal of France. And like we saw earlier, these people, they call it Indians, but this from out a book, and they call them Berber. It's from a book of people who been in Andalusia at the time, so-called Spain. So here's a scene that happened to the Muslim. You see baptism. You can see the different baptism. Now he bowed down. You see, getting the gospel, wash, baptize, new God. And that's what happened to the Moorish Empire in the West, especially. We see a lot of these paintings from Rome, of Moors, stuff like this. The number one question I get is, what happened to the Moorish Empire? If it was something like what we're going to show you, that it didn't go nowhere, it's only in our mind. We don't know history. But this legible, you see the word blanca and white. Talk about chess. The Orientalists put all this history in one spot in Spain. The art of conversion. Get that. You got Sancho. You can see the Austrias in Galicia. So go on Galicia history, you can find a lot of American history because these ports been ran by you. Santiago, Lugo, which all became Portugal, and Leon. We're getting a lot of records from Salamanca, like Castile, Navarra, Gascony, Aragon. Got the Moorish kingdoms below, which later these kingdoms came down and absorbed these. Saragossa, which we say Saragossa. How I say that the Andalusian Arabic been like Latin. If you write them in Latin letters, say Toledo, Tula, Tule, Tula. So you know, in the West, our Latin like this, just like the Andalusian Latin, Tulai, Tula, Batallas, which is just Bordeaux, Badajoz. You see, Lisbona, like in the West, like in America, you got a Lisbona, and on this side you got Lisbon now on the maps and modern day maps. But this version is still on the other side. That's why I say that all Moorish Latin. We'll say stuff like Saracusta, state of Saragossa, same thing, but we can see the change. This way in ancient Hispania. They just translated into their modern day Spanish into Spain. The Latin is Hispania. So Isabel did is register at Rome after the conquest of Granada, the old name in New Spanish, which is Spain. Her and Aragon, the kingdoms Castile and Aragon. So you see, slave markets. Just like both sides of the Atlantic. You see more like this in paintings. And like this. But you find somebody look like these in your family today. Like I said, the people in North America, they can go to any library in the world and go in the Moorish section, they can find history they just playing. Call yourself all these other things that you can't go in every library in the world and find your history, but you can go in the Moorish section. That shit right there. The sea. Control of the seas. Out west, the Moors out west, the Andalusians, they were dressed like this in Andalusia, in the same, like in the Sierra, the mountain areas, the plains, where they could get on their horse and raise cattle. They were called Vasqueros. You can get old maps and they'll see the same thing in the Granada on this side, which is the west. And they call the land of the Vasqueros Pachos. What they call that tribe. I see that I talk about another video, but they got right there Vasqueros. You look that up, that's Andalusian horsemen. And then Will Smith, they call him Blackamoor in that movie, this show, just to be historically accurate. That's what Hollywood try to do in your face. They'll be historically accurate and tell you what stuff was in certain time periods. So we see Bahia. We call her a queen of the Congo. show you something. See that? Don't let them fool you. Every forest that these people from Congo where they came and write it in their books on their maps. But so-called scholars later came around and took all those books and reconstruct the world even more by making it only one place in the world, which is right here, the Congo. But the way we read it in that time period, what Congo could they be talking about? As far as this go, if you look at all these Congos, you can see all this is the kingdoms of Congo and Angola. To the right person, especially an English Christian, they came here and see all these dark-skinned people right in Africa, Congo, all this kind of shit, and they adventurous travels to Africa and Congo. Like up here, you can see Ghana and Virginia, where they claim the black people came from Africa. The first black people from Africa came from Ghana. But what Ghana are you talking about? Because that's just been another one of those terms that been ambiguous. Tons of it. So you got a Virginia and Ghana, but they wouldn't give me the Ghana and Virginia. I know I spelled them wrong, but they know they can give me. Know what I'm talking about. Let me try this. Blacksburg. That's another Christian European naming practice. Then they look at Emporia. They'll name things like Black Land just because people there are dark skinned. And they'll stick because people go to these St. Benedict Morris Indian schools and get re-educated, teach that geography class. That's what this town called, but you got a Moorish town right there. Trying to find Ghana. Right there. I got everything. And another one to spell more like a Western version, close by somewhere. get to that when we get to North America. I have Blackstone. That's a copper. We see on that last picture, we see the one at the top been showing the American one, the one down there showing the African map. Now this one reversed. This one showing the American map, and the one at the top, I guess, showing the African map to show you how confusion take place. In this, the province of the Barbacos, like we showed in the last video, Barbacos. Multiple areas called Barbacos on the northern part of South America. And the gold mines, oro. They work in the gold mines. We see more American baptism. Another good thing to look at these murals. They show a lot of history because they be like timelines and shit. See, they got the Spanish down there. The Castillo coming in. That's why we always say, like, this is a part of American history, Portugal and Spain. But I see a lot of people talk about American history, never mention those two terms. I don't see how that's possible. Rome, Rome, Spain, Portugal, that's can't get away from it. And eventually you can't get away from the term Moors and Andalusia once I done, because you're going to see it embedded. The term Africa, all those terms embedded. As you can see, Africa and America, you can see this right here in a lot of the American photos, this little stick type thing. I guess the nobles had that. Crack somebody head getting out of line. So you see in Bahia, they representing the old land of Morocco. Bahia known as Rome of the Blacks. Habit of the Moors, habit of the guard of the King of Morocco in 1690 something. Well, you see with that red cape, you see that all the time. So the habit of an Ethiopian, quote unquote, 1581. Again, still got that red band with the sword in it. Go on and on. He got his red cape. Habit of an Indian chief. Habit of the chief of the black eunuchs, 1749. Red cape. and this crown is like the east and west. Keep that jewel in the middle, third eye. And they always call a lot of these Moors uniques on these pictures. See in the museum in Brazil. Part of one that Orientalists ain't get to fit in Morocco before you. But the way they dress, they wouldn't do it. I don't think so. They probably would put Morocco probably say French in Morocco or something like that. Caption it. Or relentless. So you see the Kingdom of Guyana. But this is the Guyana in South America and Cabo Nord, the North Cape, and Rio Hermano, like the chocolate. It's American Ghana. Noble. But again, the plume feathers, usually 3 ostrich feathers. Like we see in the last video, the king, Sultan of Morocco, hold to the treaty with the United States. But the letter with George Washington getting the ostrich feathers from America, because he still had control over kingdoms and ports at that time. Again, we just forget these things after all these world wars and Reconstruction. But I got a picture of the Duchess of Medina Sidonia with the King of Morocco of modern times, showing him the same thing he's showing y'all in these videos. The same passages that I be reading, showing about the kings on the side. So he know too. Supposed to be king of the blacks in Africa. You see in the back, same thing. All about trade, commerce. Got his red cape. And got a lot of fucking cool feathers. I think each of these go back to his top bloodline, the different nobles who've been ruling before him. He also got his red thing around him. That just show you the Moorish Empire been deep. But right there, got Africa. As far as we concerned in these videos, when we say Africa, we know we're talking about the continent of Africa today, parts of Southeast Asia, and parts of America, especially South America. The pirates of the Perry Moors. Look at the Mustafa Maro. Red cape. Got he belt what he pushed on him. These what they were calling the Vasqueros because they reminded them. Even on the Christian maps they write those things because they ain't trying to hide it at that time. So they did hide it, but just given to you in their way, not your way. Burn your map and write their map, but you still can find yourself in their map. Got your tomahawk. It's like the so-called Berbers, North Africa. The black of the Royal Ardra. Tie around his waist. You already see this tie around her waist, same thing. And then beads too. You're starting to see that a lot. Main man with this red cape, West Indies. Both of them. I read a passage to talk about, I think I talk about in one of the videos where he talking about different spellings of Maroken, all meaning like son of God and shit like that. Going all the way back to, you see, I think the Saint Michael and the Russian icons you see. I'm on a horse with the red cape, stabbing the dragon or the devil or whatever. And I always seen the bow and arrow too. All that to me is the allegory of Moorish Americans. You see them with the gold chains and shit too. Knowing they know how to mint and turn gold, put their face on them shit. So they minting money in Europe. Because they say the Moors of Alan Marvin minting the money. That's why when they going on the crusade of Alan Mar, we start to see these European, Portuguese, and Castile started to get the gold. Till 1492, Castile decided to reconstruct history, create a whole new world. That's where we get most of our stories from. And those stories, these are the Indians, whatever. And even that, they hide these versions of them and give us other versions of them. We have to dig for these versions of the stuff, but we still won't hold on to the story. You see people talking about, oh, black Indians, no. You can't hold on to the whole story. They ain't gonna admit that niggas been here from you from Africa for at least a concern on their colonies. So you gotta even fight to even get that. So when you do find that, now you wanna continue to deal with the Spanish story. Like you gotta go into that story and see what happened. They changed Moros to Indios. And their records, because they conquering Moors. They ain't gonna write the history and add them. In their mind, they not reconstruct the whole world and declare that ain't no Moors over here, no kingdoms. Just a bunch of wild Indians who ain't got no kingdoms or no writings and nothing. So they gotta write stories. We see these in the last video. We see like this allegory they showing you all that shit, and this has got the parrot, of course. You see the Moors with the parrot, know that Alan Murray coming from this west. And they got him in the allegory of Othello to show you that the so-called Indian figure is a Moor. But all this come out of Rome. They about to reteach you shit in their Moorish Indian schools. And the gator is a symbol that he come from La Florida, which is the south at that time. Got your red, white, and blue. He got a blue cape to switch him up on you. But he got his genie lamp to show that they've been looking at them as nobles or Arabs, even though we're in the West. So we got more scenes like this out of Rome. But don't forget, there are a lot of pictures of the Rome here. The Roman jurisdictions here that they reconstruct. You know, we're supposed to believe all these is in Italy. Don't let them fool you. All these type of shit. Abraham Hannibal. Same thing. Wrap around a weird sword in that bitch. And he got his leopard skin too. Jack. I take you all around the world to see the same things. Red Cape Man. All this can be early America or stuff like that. All this could be all early America and around the world. But we don't picture none of us has to be an American because we go by the Hollywood version except for this. This could be American, not this. And our Hollywood version of the reconstructed history. From Montenegro, and she part of the Red Cape Gang. Too. And Nubians. Nubians. French. So, this the so-called East Indies. Same thing at the West. Red Cape Gang. And he got his plume feather in his turban. Chopping off heads straight out. No joke. Yeah. Still got the Moors, got the Pelicans, just like in the West. Dealing with one group of people who've been doing this shit so long and so far wide that we let other people come around and tell us everything instead of us creating our own curriculums, explaining history to our own children. We take them to Jesuit schools. So now I gotta make 1,000 videos on Red Cape Gang to see. They claim this is Sicily, but again, it's worldwide. India, Sicily. Check them out. Moorish family and their servants. Shot Red Cape. And somebody had come make a video and say, when you go to the museum and look at this, he said, I see Aboriginals using this, saying it's a so-called Black American, but when you check the caption at the museum of the website, it say African Blackamoor. So they're lying. So again, on our videos, we know all those terms are ambiguous. The person who registered at that museum can write what the fuck he want. That means he been at the time period of the sculptor. And like he writing what a sculptor said this shit is. And even then, the terms like African Blackamoor, ambiguous terms, you could be talking about all these places that we just ran through. Because it just based off that person calling what it is, saying what it is. Who's them? Let me see his plume feathers. Let me see. He part of the Red Cape Gang. Maroken. Definitely Red Cape Gang. And I bet you the caption on this gonna say a Virginian Indian. They definitely got us around his waist too. He ain't got a sword in it. But I got the allegory of tobacco sellers of Virginia. Like this. Got this long thing like the other Moor we see in the last video. And you see these little things right here. Where you can look up the pictures of the Moors of Brazil, which they call Afro-Brazilian. So you can look up the Afro-Brazilian pictures. You see one that has these little things right there. See, he got his gold crown. He's the king. And again, the allegory of the sea in the back. Look like gold. So he connected with the king of Morocco, which is the gold, the land of gold. Brazil, Minas today. They are connected. His title again. See the king of Morocco, Fez, Tiferet, Gago, and all the kings with his kings of Guinea from pole to pole, humble in their blessings, pole to pole. You gotta understand the emperor, like the emperor of Morocco, be the emperor of the land of Moors, which that means any place on this planet or any planet that Moors run, operate, control. That's land of Moors. You got different languages: Mauritania, Morocco, Mariecos, Maryland. Just like you got a bunch of different versions of Land of Black. He kept out. He ain't red, but he kept out. Got his long gun. Got his sword, everything. It's the Musketeers. He definitely musketeer like a North American Indian. the Orientalists will throw him over in the East though because of his face, but he got his long gun, he got his long tobacco. Allegorical. Metacomic. Which I believe was just a try to change from Muhammad to a metacomic or something like that. Because he got this long guy, just like the Moors you be seeing in the other pictures, and this cape probably red. Another mural that I find in South America, probably been Saleh, where we kept all the slaves that we had captured, the Christian slave, as we can see. Big more. And again, the sea. He got control of the trade routes in the seas. This is South America. Again, Argentina. And they dress. If you read the plaque, they talk about how Spain influenced them. But you ain't got no evidence showing nothing before them that they meant something else. When you first start recording the history, they always been speaking those languages and wearing those shit. So Mark Washington in 2008 make these things showing you so-called African, where we can say Moorish, being that this is the old Africa, that's accurate in that context. The Mayan King Yaksun Balam. Fish fin. Remember we were saying about fish in Latin is pairs. And P and F is the same language. P and F is interchangeable, so that's phase. The fish got its metaphysical meanings. Meaning akal or nab. They say the Umayyad dynasty going into Spain. That's what they're talking about. inhabit of the island of Brazilians. Remember all those pains that had these guys with the bow and arrow and shit. They were saying Moors. But since this Brazil, Afro-Brazilians or Indians or something like that. But they go both ways. It could be some place in Africa that they call Brazil too in some books. But we can see her with the parrot again showing you the allegorical. I also believe they put a lot of stuff in their pictures so they Freemason friends and stuff can know the truth while they lie to everybody else. So I try to show you how to read these things. Zumbitos Palmares. Try to call him a free Negro. He's a mestre. That's MR. Even the land they call is Palmares. Got the Amorua people, the Tyrannos, which remind me of Tyre, of ancient Tyre, because we know we're in the kingdom of Tarsus, the ancient kingdoms of Tarsus, based off the historical documents. And again, it's the kingdom of Mecca that we talked about a couple of videos ago, the land of the Pontius, the so-called Moors of the Atlas, the Bracamoros. The land of gold, the Castilian de Oro. The Meta River. Merchants from all over Europe frequenting the port of Mecca, Azamor, Safi, and Saleh, opened by the Sharif to Christians. In the 16th century, the Azamor place name stopped being applied to a kingdom to be limited to the main port of Morocco, close to the infidels, Christians. And knowing for history, it was erased from the American geography. So historians couldn't believe, these later historians couldn't believe, like I say, came around and reconstruct a lot of shit. They couldn't phantom Azamor being in Brazil, so they just disregard it. So now we don't see the maps that we see today with it, so it's not real. Okay. It was erased from the American geography with the remaining merchant skills, leaving no other trace of the kingdom of Mecca than the Meta River, a tributary of the Orinoco, occupied Jamaican by the Turks. So this became occupied by the Turks, the kingdom of Mecca, and it was called Jamaican at that time of the occupation by the Turks. In 1532, they acquired ports in Westeros, which is America. Westeros is just the way you can go find Templar American history, because that's what they call it, Westeros. Shortly afterwards, the Portuguese from the Mecca factory sent a notice that an armada was preparing to plunder the Canaries, which is again this area we were talking about. And that's just more evidence by them saying, we see in the history books by them saying the Armada. When you go look up the history of the Spanish Armada, if they say Turks going to plunder the Canaries, they're talking about this history on the side. Because ain't no Turks going to plunder those islands and not nobody to plunder. So we can stop right there. We're going to come back and get into some more documentations. Peace.